noise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy.
You know, I don't know if it's as true for New Orleans bands as the general, R&B and funk population out there, but something I've always noticed and bothers me when I see live shows is when they go too up tempo. A lot of times I think they're overhyped, they're overexcited. Maybe the crowd makes them too hyped or whatever, and they go too up tempo and they lose a lot of the essence of the true funk by doing that.
Yeah, and I attribute that to what we call getting over, where you want to come out with so much energy that you're just getting over. You're getting the crowd. You're winning over the crowd. You're making it because it's the energy is so high that the crowd is into it, and that's getting over, right? You're winning them over. You're getting over. It's working. They're digging it. And a lot of times you're trying to get over with energy, right? And then that's not necessarily always the best way to get over, right? So as you get older, you start to, through experience and also through maturity, you start to develop other musical attributes and musical skills that can also get over, right? So I'm sure, you might know about, I have a piano trio with David Torkanowski, James Singleton, and we'll play ballads, and I'll play a ballad with brushes. And, it's taken me a while to get comfortable with that, but now I love that. And then, I've been playing at the Bayou Bar on Tuesdays with Peter Harris and Steve Mazikowski on guitar and Tony DeGrati on sax. And there's no microphones. And so, I can literally hear Tony, fwa, 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 right? Fwa, 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 da, da, do. Wah, 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 and I'm playing with the brushes. Wah, ga, ga, go, go, wah, 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 chicka, ga, ga. My one and only love. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah. You're getting over with beauty. You're getting over with the beauty of Tony's phrasing and his breathing and his tone and his sound. And if I'm like, I'm gonna get over it with energy, you're gonna ruin it. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting over with energy, you're getting over with the sheer beauty of what you're doing and the space and the quality of the sound. Now, you can do that in a situation like the Bayou Bar because you can touch the nearest audience member. and they are close enough to touch Tony's horn so they can hear all of that, and there's no microphone getting in the way. Now, if you try to do that at Tipitino's while everybody's drinking, standing, and trying to talk to people, that's not going to get over, right? So by getting comfortable being able to play ballads at 60 BPM and make it groove, and then I started getting comfortable playing at 55 and 50 beats per minute, and I was like, blah, 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 blah. That's slower. That's I'm real comfortable doing that now. But it took years to get to that level, to where I can literally, I have no qualms about singing to you right now. And I know people are going to watch this, but it's because I've done it for years. And so now that maturity, I can play a groove at 55 beats per minute and feel comfortable about it, because I know it's not the drums that are getting over, it's Tony's tone. And then when Steve takes a solo, it's Steve Mazikowski's tone and his lyrical phrasing and his ideas and his sound. And I can literally sit back there, go, and get over. Because it's not the drums, it's not the energy, it's not the high tempo. You know, well, we gotta get over on this energy and make people dance. That's cool, that's great, but that's not the only way to get over. So the more that I spend time playing music that gets over because of the phrasing, the sound, the tone, the musicality, the more comfortable I am playing a groove and being like, it doesn't have to be any faster than this. This is the right tempo, right? 88 beats per minute is a beautiful tempo. I don't need to push it to 95 to get over. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it takes years.
Being comfortable, being disciplined.
Yeah. And being comfortable and not being scared to death. Because you can be scared to death up there like, nobody's digging this. It's too slow. It's not getting over. But it takes that time, that seasoning, to be like, no, this feels really good. Doesn't need to be any faster than this.
Well, you know, going back to funk, Parliament Funkadelic, seeing George Clinton, you know, dozens and dozens of times. One of the things he most often says, I think, up on stage is, slow it down, slow it down. He'll tell the band all the time to slow it down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I noticed too is as people get up in age, they get more comfortable feeling it at a slower or moderate tempo. So, you know, no offense to George, it is not, I'm not trying to make this sound, but he's older than some of the other musicians in his band. So I'm not saying that he's older and saying that as any derogatory thing whatsoever. I'm saying that he might be feeling it a little on the backside of the tempo, and then the band might be wanting to push it a little bit. So he might want to be like, yep, let's bring it back. Bring it back.
Especially with those grandkids he has up there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stan, what about when you are playing with Galactic or similar type of band? How does your playing differ, when a sax is on a solo spot versus a keyboard versus a guitar? Do you alter your technique based on, the type of instrument that's up front soloing?
I mean, yes, without doubt. I'm just trying to think of how to verbalize it. I mean, like with Galactic, it's a very, I see Galactic as a powerhouse, and I need to drive that vehicle differently than I do other musical vehicles. So, you're going to get behind the wheel of, an 18-wheeler differently than you're going to get behind the wheel of a sports car. Now both are going to, you're going to put them in gear, you're going to put your foot on the gas, and you're going to move them down the highway, but you're going to drive them differently. With a Mack truck, you have to be more decided about your movements. It needs to move forward in a very deliberate, very, very powerful way. And then in a sports car, you might be like, oh man, I got to move around this Mack truck. I got to go over here. And as long as you do it in a respectful way, you can maneuver in smaller movements and quicker maneuvers and things like that. And so, I hit hard with Galactic. And then when I play at the Bayou Bar, I deliberately, in Snug Harbor and Columns Hotel, I deliberately play a lot quieter. And, now at my studio, I have two kits set up. And when I go to my studio, I try to spend an hour on the smaller kit, the bebop kit, where I literally try to play, if my stick heights, I use the rim of my tom as my gauge. If the stick heights are coming up higher than the rim of the tom, which is about like that high from the snare to the tom, then that's too much. Because I know that that's where I've got to be playing behind a piano, behind a saxophone with no mic, right? And then with Galactic, everything is bigger, which is super fun. I love that. But it's slightly different. So now, because I've developed being able to play more comfortably at a lower volume, I might start off a saxophone solo with Galactic at a lower volume. Because we might have just come from a guitar solo where he wants to come out and rock out from note one. And that's cool. So I might start, the guitar solo here, and then we go into the sax solo for the next solo in Galactic. But I've gotten so comfortable being able to play at a lower volume, I know it's going to get over because I know how to make it feel really good. It doesn't need to be on volume level 10 all the time. So I might make the dynamics come down behind the trumpet or the saxophone in Galactic. But in other situations, I might do that and make it even more drastic, So it's really fun to develop other aspects of my musical palettes and, really working on dynamics and really shedding all of that. And then being on a gig, I was on a gig with my friend Eric Benny Bloom the other day, and great trumpet player who plays with Lettuce, and Ian Neville was on the gig, and great bass player Eric Vogel and Shea Pierre. And then Bloom was just like, man, I can't believe your dynamic control. Like when I pick up the trumpet and I go to play trumpet and you're just like right behind me, it stays funky as hell, but you just bring that way down, and I feel like I can really speak, and I don't have to like blast out. He's like, man, your dynamic control is getting so developed. I'm like, thank you. I've literally been working on it. Like, practicing it is one thing, but then playing at the Bayou Bar behind, saxophone player with no mic and Steve on guitar, and sometimes David Torkanowski on piano. Then he played the columns with Tork on piano. It's like, I've been working on it. So as I progress, and like I said, over the next 10 years, those are things that I really want to develop. So when people play with me, like, man, I love playing with Stanton because he's listening all the time, and his dynamic range is so wide, and he always listens and comes to where it's almost like he has a sixth sense of where we want to be dynamically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it was so gratifying being a funk fan forever, since I was in grade school, pretty much. In the 90s, when these groups came along after the record industry had done what it had done, which basically was abandoned funk, but groups like Galactic and Lettuce and Snarky Puppy and even Soul Live and this whole the Motet, all these bands that were sort of like embraced by the jam band festival scene, I guess, but really keeping funk alive and the improvisational nature that's a big part of funk also. And I don't know, do you feel like part of that movement, is that something that registers and that you feel like you guys have really helped keep this fantastic genre alive that way?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. I feel very much that we're in a circuit that is shared by Lettuce, Soul Live, and the other bands that you just mentioned. Like, and there's a lot of them now. Like,
Dumpsta, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, Dumpsta Funk, and the Monophonics, and just so many. Even
New Master Sounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're all right there, and I don't want to start listing them all and then forget some of the important ones. So I'll let you help me. Think of a lot of them, but we all know who they are, and we're all on that same circuit, kind of touring the same clubs and the same the same festivals and stuff too, right? I mean, of course, Charlie Hunter's part of that, and so many of our friends, Will Bernard and Robert Walter, they all have groove-based, funk-based, Great Boy All-Stars, and they all have these groove-based, funk-based projects that and we're all buddies, we're all friends, and it's very much playing similar venues, similar festivals. Trombone Shorty, and Soul Rebels, and just so many bands that are in that same circuit.
Yeah, it's just so fantastic to have this sort of counterculture thing, taken to the live venue more than anything. Because, like I said, if you had to rely on radio and things like that, forget it.
Right. We're very much relying on our live performances to make a living.
So I have this one here. I know this isn't the first one, but what inspired you to start, doing your own recordings?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, we made Coolin' Off with Dan Prothero. And so shortly thereafter, Dan started talking to me about, you should think about doing your own solo record. I was like, really? So I think that record came out in 1998. And I think that Crazy Horse Mongoose came out in 1998 as well. And so, Galactic's second record and my first solo record came out in the same year. So, and then I started to realize I really liked putting together lineups and people that I wanted to play with. So, my first two records were kind of a conglomeration of, a bunch of different great players. And then with my third record, I wanted to put something together that could be an ongoing project. So, from that record, I had the idea that I would do 3 organ trio records, right? And that's what we did. And so that record is Stanton Moore 3, because it was my third record, and it's the trio, Stanton Moore Trio. So that's why I named it 3. And then we did emphasis on parenthesis, and then Groove Alchemy. So that's the 3 records. And they all came out. I just released them all on vinyl this year. So they're all available on vinyl if anybody's interested in that. I think just go to stantonmore.com and they can find that. But so I was very happy to, work with that trio with Robert Walter, Will Bernard. And then after those 3 records, I started my trio with David Torkanowski, James Singleton, and we've done 2 records. One is Conversations, and the second one is our tribute to Alan Toussaint, where they had a lot of special guests.
Well, those trio records, I mean, they are all about the groove. I mean, they are, I love it. Yeah, and the keyboard's great. Of course, the drums are always great, but anyone who digs grooves has to be hip to those.
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning them. I'm very proud of those records, and very proud of that trio, and the body of work that we have done. And now that those records are available on vinyl, and then they will be available digitally soon.
What would be maybe like 3 of your favorite Galactic tunes?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't really make a difference from Mavis Staples. It's great. Into the Deep with with Macy Gray. Just off the top of my head, maybe Something's Wrong with This Picture with Federal House Band to Cool It.
You guys ever do any soundtrack music? Because so much of this sounds like it would be great in film.
Yeah, it's a great question. We did do the soundtrack for a Sony PlayStation video game called Infamous 2. And then we did contribute a little bit. Robert Mercurio worked on a soundtrack for a movie called Car Dogs. But we haven't done too much soundtrack stuff yet.
They got to start using it in like some action films and things like that. How cool would that be?
I know. I don't disagree.
I like to ask guests, Stanton, to pick their 5 Desert Island albums. So I understand, everyone understands it might be different today from what you might say in 3 days, but basically what might they be?
Yeah, for me, The Meters, Look of Pie Pie is just always so great. And John Coltrane, Live at Birdland, is the record that really turned me on to Elvin Jones. James Brown, Star Time, that collection. Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti. And let's throw out maybe Dr. John Gumbo. Fantastic record. So, those are my today Desert 5.
Yeah. Not on that record, but you mentioned Zeppelin, and you did a version When the Levee Breaks, one of your own records too.
Yeah, yeah, which was really fun re-releasing the vinyl. I had to listen to all of that music again, and it was really great to go back and listen to all of that and check that out. And also, really emotional I mean, to realize where we were at that time. Recording that because it was right after Katrina and levees breaking in New Orleans, and so it was emotional to go back and listen to all of that. And since we're talking about records, I hope you wouldn't mind me also mentioning, my current record with the Stanton Moore Project, which is an organ trio that I've recently started with Eric Krasno and Eric Finland on organ, and very proud of that record. Book of Queens, our first record, and we've got great special guests on that with Branford Marcellus and Corey Henry on keys and Robert Randolph.
And of course, they can get that anywhere. Is it physical as well as streaming or download?
Yeah, so that is streaming and download right now, and physical is coming out in October.
Okay. And StantonMoore.com is where they go?
Right now they can hear it on anywhere that you listen to digital music. So Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Music, and Tidal and all of that.
But to otherwise keep up with whatever you have going tour wise, or with your videos and things like that.
Yeah, StantonMoore.com. Anybody who's interested in my online drumming school, that is Stanton Moore Drum Academy.com. And then really I've been trying to ask people to come and check out my YouTube channel, which I'm always posting fun drum lessons, yes, but behind the scenes stuff too. I just released a tour of Tipitinas. And so that's really fun. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of drum lessons, but my YouTube channel, I'm really trying to get people to come check out right now.
Very cool. Tipitinas, when I talked to Robert, you guys had just acquired it and the pandemic came right, the timing was not the best. So has it come all the way back now, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, I would say that we are as strong or stronger than ever through a lot of hard work from our staff. Shout out to our staff, and shout out to my partners and our manager, Alex Brawl. And we just really we're very fortunate that we kind of have a think tank of 5 band members who have toured the world together for 25 years. And a great manager in Alex Brawl. So all of our big decisions, we all put our heads together, and we may not always agree unanimously, but we're able to come to decisions that we feel are at least well thought out by the 5 band members and Alex, our manager. And we also have great accountants and great legal counsel. And so we really feel like we are able to make informed decisions. And so, we were able to do things that have positioned us in a way that we feel good about what's going on with Tips.
Good to hear. Glad to hear. I mean, it's such a historic venue. So glad you guys could keep it from the dust heap,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we feel like it's really in good shape at the moment. Of course, there's always work to do, but we feel like we're gonna make it for a little while longer, hopefully.
And speaking of those videos you have on YouTube, I recommend them highly. They're fantastic. I really like some of those ones where you show how to play certain other artists, how they lay things down, like the Bill Withers one, and things like that. So cool.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And how would you describe funk, Stanton? How would you describe it, and what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, funk to me is rhythmic based music that compels people to move. And, of course, there's a lot of other music that compels people to move, but, and I would say it compels people to dance. But what if you have people who are unable to get up and dance. They're still going to want to move. They're still going to want to tap their foot or, tap their hand or nod their head or move in some kind of way. And of course, we're trying to get people up and get people to dance and to move to the music. And it's rhythmic based music that involves a lock between the other instruments that come, the rhythms that are being played by the instruments come together to form a lock that makes the listener want to get up and dance or move in some kind of way.
Cool. And what does it mean to you personally?
Oh, to me, it's everything. To me, I've made a living playing funk. I've toured the world playing funk. I've been able to see parts of the world that I, never thought I'd be able to see because I get to play grooves and funk music for appreciative audiences. And it's my livelihood, and it's what I've chosen to do with my life.
Now, does all funk have to be on the one? If it's not on the one, what's that formula?
Yeah, of course, George Clinton would probably tell you yes, but there are incredible songs where, James Brown, especially playing things that don't play the one, right? So, I think that it has to have an infectious rhythm and an infectious groove. And sometimes, you can intentionally leave the one out. And, we did that with one of the tunes that we did with Stanton Moore, right? We intentionally disguised the one, but it's hopefully still infectious, right?
And what about New Galactic music? You guys, why have you guys slowed down so much in putting out actual Galactic studio music?
Well, because we're working on what I believe is going to be one of our strongest records. We may have slowed down on the release of things, but we haven't slowed down on working on stuff. And we're halfway finished with a record that we're working on with Irma Thomas. And the songs, I believe, are the strongest songs we've ever done. And the production is really strong. And I'm really, really proud of this record that we're about to release. And keep in mind, we did just release an EP at the beginning of this year. And then we're planning on releasing this record with Irma maybe towards the end of this year, but or beginning of next year. And, so even though it seems like we've been slowing down releasing stuff, we're definitely working on stuff. And when it comes out, people are like, oh, I see why this took a while.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And a lot of people are going to be glad to hear that for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you also, Stanton, what's one or two of the most unforgettable stage experiences that you've had?
Yeah, just off the top of my head, because we're talking about funk and groove and classic artists. I got to play Soul Power with Maceo Parker in the middle of the Caribbean on Jam Cruise. And I believe the rest of the JB Horns were there. And so, with George Porter Jr. on bass. So that was a pretty spectacular experience, So that one comes to mind right off the top of my head.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. What a venue, and with those guys. I'm so glad that George is still doing it, and Maceo, I think, finally just maybe retired, but he was still doing it up until very recently too.
George Porter Jr.?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he has not retired.
I know he hasn't retired. Maceo's retired.
Oh.
But I'm saying it's so great to see George Porter's still out there doing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's an inspiration because he just made 75 and he's still doing his weekly gig. And he plays his weekly gig so that he can play music every week, you know, and keep developing and keep growing and keep experimenting, keep trying new stuff every week.
Yeah. The Running Partners, that's his band, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but he does a trio gig on Mondays. And, you know, hats off and kudos to him for doing that. You know, I think it's really cool.
That is very cool. Stanton, anything else we didn't cover you want to share with the viewers and listeners?
You know, I think that's it. You know, I mean, I encourage people to go check out the latest Galactic EP, Chompatulas, the latest Stanton Moore record. So, I've released those two things this year. All of my Robert Walter, Will Bernard organ trio records are available on vinyl. So I've put out a lot this year, and then continue to put out new lessons for my online drum academy. And then, come check out my YouTube. That's for free. So,
yeah, no, it's great. You have great free stuff on there. I mean, I'm like, wow, he's got a lot of really good. I mean, I don't know what you buy through the academy per se, but the stuff you got up there just to look at is fantastic.
The academy has, the YouTube channel just has some of the excerpts from some of the lessons. The academy has, if you like what you see on YouTube, the academy has all the full length versions with printable PDFs. So each video comes with a printable booklet that goes along with it. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I absolutely love doing it because I get drummers reaching out to me all the time like, man, the lesson that you put out on this really helped change my drumming, really helped transform what I'm doing. My band says I'm a better drummer now. My wife likes me more because I'm happier now, that kind of stuff. So I'm getting that kind of feedback all the time, and it makes me just really want to keep moving forward with what I'm doing with all of that.
Yeah, that's the best, when you get that kind of feedback, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Hey, Stanton, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for sharing so much. And thank you for all the music you've given us.
Well, thank you, my man. I appreciate talking to you. It's been a joy. Thanks for all the great questions. Thanks for having me on the show. And I'll see you down the line.
Absolutely. And I'll let you know when this is going to post. You can share it if you like or whatever. So
beautiful. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it.
Take good care. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.